Do y'all smell it? It smells like football season. That's right, boys. Welcome to your Week 1 Fantasy Football Recap. Oh, it feels so good to be back. It feels like it was 58 degrees this weekend when I woke up. It was football on Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday. Dude, vibes are high. It feels so good being back in front of you guys, doing some recap videos. Let's jump straight into it, all right? So here's how this works for the uninitiated, for the newbies. On these videos, I typically like to run through all of the previous week's games, scores, any big developments in the league, anything that's kind of going on. We'll kind of brush over the standings, the rankings, see if anyone's kind of moving around, and then we'll briefly look at the next week's games, the following week's games, and see kind of what's coming our way. And then I try to do some kind of special segment at the end of the video to really keep y'all invested, keep y'all, entertained. Unfortunately, this week, I got a lot of questions this weekend about how the fantasy thing works, like what is possible on the app. So instead of having the special segment at the end of the video, we're gonna do it right here up at the front. So it's time for How the Hell Do I Read This App? All right, so basically what we're gonna do, we're gonna take a look at a week 2 game, a game that is up and coming. I'm gonna talk you through all of the numbers, all of the points, what you need to know, what you need to look out for, and then we'll jump into the previous week's games, kind of go from there, all right? Let's take a look at week 2, Baja Blasters versus Butt Dog, Mason versus Paige. All right, so like I said, from the top to the bottom, the top number, the 0.0, the big bold white one, is obviously the score, 0-0, because no one has played in this game yet. It's next week's game. The small gray number directly underneath that, the 53 to 60, is your projected points. All right, so that's how many points the stats and the computer expect you to get. Underneath that is obviously the team names, the owners, and their record. Underneath that, we've got the win probability. Pretty self-explanatory. Whoever has the higher percentage on this has a higher percentage chance of winning. I'm gonna tell you straight. We'll get into it once we start talking about the recap. Projections don't mean much. It's a great way to measure what you should do, but it's not the end-all be-all. It is not set in stone, all right? Jumping down from there, we've got the players. Your top 3 are obviously going to be all of the players that you have active, ready to go this weekend. The bottom 2 are your bench. We've been over this. Looking at individual players, let's look at Brock Purdy. He is a very interesting person to look at right now. First things first, what we notice is there is a big old fat red Q next to him. Click on his name. What does that mean? Questionable. That means it is questionable that he is going to play this weekend. But you can also see right there next to it, estimated return, 9/14. Fun fact, 9/14 is the day he is playing. So they are expecting him to come back, but he does have a toe and shoulder injury, meaning he might not. So you kind of want to keep an eye on players with Qs or Os or anything like that, and be prepared to swap them out in case they aren't healthy for the game. Continuing to look at Brock Purdy, you can see it kind of says his name, at New Orleans, Sunday at 12 o'clock. That's just where and when he's playing. And then the 21.06 gray number is what he is projected to get. Once again, that's not saying that's what he's gonna get, but that's what the computer thinks he might. That's important for the next player down, Breece Hall with a 15.28 projection. Only reason that's important is because if we take a look at the bench, Josh Jacobs at 18.27, he has a higher projection than Breece Hall. So the way the win probability and all of that works is whatever is on your active team. It does not take your bench into consideration. So Mason, it would be optimal probably to swap Josh Jacobs and Breece Hall to make sure that you have the most projected points, the highest percentage chance of winning. Given you're still gonna be about 3 points under Paige, but it would change your win probability slightly. Just a good practice to try to put whoever has the most projected points on your active roster and whoever has the lowest projected points on the bench. But let's get into the recap so you can see that's not always the case. Let's jump in with one of the less eventful games from this weekend, which would be Chum Bucket versus Cheddar's Enjoyer, Sam Chum Lee versus Jacob Parker, with a score of 48.78 to 55.32. Jakey just barely edging it out. Really, only things that are worth talking about here is Baker Mayfield with a 28.58 points and Bijan Robinson with a 24.4 on the other side, as well as Puka Nacua with 23.1. Big numbers on both sides. However, AJ Brown for the Chum Bucket showing up for a 1.8 points. Absolutely devastating. As you can see on AJ Brown, he was projected to get 15.7. He only got 1. The projections aren't always right, and it's always subject to change. Also, here's gonna be a change from this season. I'm not really gonna get into benches. I mean, I feel like you guys can read, y'all know what you're looking at. If there's some giant score sitting on your bench, I might address it. But for the record, it's just gonna take more time. And it's time that we don't need to eat up with weird stats that y'all don't really care about. All right, moving on to our other uneventful game that was wrapped up quite early in the weekend. Gravy Worms versus Dirt Dickers.
As soon as he said it, I was like, what did you fucking say? You don't talk like that.
49.82 to 59.58. Oscar edging it out on that one. About 10 points difference, but you can see Pat Mahomes had 28, Jalen Hurts had 24. Christian McCaffrey was the game changer here. He was looking questionable all week. It was undetermined if he was going to play or not. And then I believe it was Sunday morning they confirmed that he is listed as active. And sure enough, he showed up with a 23.2 points, enough to give Oscar the win there. I don't know about y'all. I mean, the people that were here in the previous season, I really am enjoying the 3-man roster because it's like the games they're hinging on 3 people. Like it's not this my team can come back, it can be this giant thing. They're done quick. You're only watching a few people. You're only watching a few games. Loving it. And the fact that some games are being decided by the middle of Sunday, which then leads us to some of our more eventful games. The first one being the Triple Dipper versus the Baja Blasters, me versus Mason, 60 to 42 points. Me taking the win home, ain't nothing new there. Really not much to talk about here other than the fact that it all really came down to Derrick Henry on Sunday night with the Ravens. I believe I went into that game with a 12-point deficit, a 15-point deficit, somewhere in there. And Derrick Henry, everyone was kind of questioning this season if he still had it, if he was just an old dog, can you teach him new tricks? But with the new quarterback, the new team, Derrick Henry came to play this weekend with 29.2 points, enough to give me a healthy lead over Mason, giving me the win. Feels good. Then we got 2 other games that were much more eventful, much more exciting. The first of which being Stillwell versus Winnie and the Jets, Phil versus Cody. This game was awesome. Best game of the weekend by far. So they went into Sunday night with 19 points to 20 points, virtually a 50-50 on if Lamar Jackson or Josh Allen were going to be the quarterback that showed up. Lamar Jackson, the first half of that game, absolutely dominant. The Bills had no answer for the running game. They had no answer for Derrick Henry. They had no answer for the passing game. Lamar Jackson, rushing quarterback, got plenty of points himself. But then it looked bad going into the fourth quarter. Cody was sitting on a 1% chance on the win probability of winning, and Josh Allen showed up in the fourth quarter. Showed up so hard, he's the highest scoring player from this weekend with a hearty 42.76 points. Absolutely massive. Beating out Phil. Y'all saw the text. Phil struggling to root for Lamar Jackson as a Steelers fan, but I guess he didn't root hard enough. The Winnie and the Jets, absolutely dominant out there. I believe that's the highest score of the entire league from this week was with Cody with 62 points. Absolutely massive. And we then get into our final game, the only game that came down to Monday night, which was Butt Dog versus Booze Clues, Paige Chavez versus Robert. Paige Chavez, 40 points to 49 points. It came down to Justin Jefferson right there at the end. Paige needed 25 points. Justin Jefferson being one of the top receivers of the league. That is not unheard of at all for him to get 25 points. And I had faith. I mean, we saw the text, but let's be honest. So Justin Jefferson, I think he finished the first quarter with basically 2 points. Hard to get 25 in one half. So Yeah, really, Jaden Daniels for Robert with 22 points was absolutely massive. And then Paige's team, you know, all of the J-boys with just 10, 14, 14, really nothing to write home about. Really, if Joe Burrow could have turned something on, or if Justin Jefferson could have turned something on, it would have been different, but it just wasn't. So Robert taking home his first fantasy win, very exciting for him. With that, let's take a look at the power rankings. Let's see if anything has changed. For those of you who don't know, this is essentially where your team ranked on draft day versus where they are ranking now, based solely off of this previous week's matchup. So taking a look at this, we do have some big jumps both up and down. Trending up, we got Booze Clues, Triple Dipper, and Winnie and the Jets all trending up. Trending down, we got Butt Dog, Stillwall, and Gravy Worms. Butt Dog with a giant drop from 3rd place to 7th place. Really no other significant, I mean, Booze Clues going from 8th to 5th, and Triple Dipper from 9 to 6. Also pretty impressive. And the Baja Blasters holding 10th down, refusing to move. You love to see it. I have full faith in you, Mason. Make those moves, make those changes, all right? That's week 1. That's week 1 of fantasy. Hopefully you guys are having a good time. Hopefully if you got a win, you're feeling good. If you got a loss, you're feeling determined. To all the new players, hopefully this isn't too crazy. If it is, if you have questions, if you have problems, text me, call me, send me a letter, do what you gotta do, but let me know, because I wanna make sure that your experience this season is great, all right? Last thing that I'm gonna say before I leave you guys, we do have some special segments already figured out. I got a couple of guests that are already kind of volunteering to come be part of this thing. So look forward to those. If you have ideas on special segments that I could bring people in on, if you have an idea that you wanna do, if you wanna come host one of these videos, if you wanna do the recap yourself, let me know. I would love to bring you guys in. But until then, keep your head up, keep fighting. Week 2, big football games this weekend. Love you all. Bye.
Tell them how it is, I don't beat around the bush. Yeah, made it look easy, wasn't easy as it looks.